which sieve did you? From which sieve did you copy?
That's what I understood.
Okay, it's okay.
I did from the top of the page.
It's okay. Okay.
Not bad.
All right, we'll start sieve Zayin. I wanted to learn from before, but it's okay. So the Mechaber says, Yuchsin, sieve Zayin. Let's start with sieve Zayin. Yuchsin udam isha, don't marry a lady, lo mishpachas mitzeruam, mishpachas of mitzeres, mishpachas nichtim. You know,
The married people, it's too late already. Just putting it out there. Already shut it off.
It's off?
No, it's
No.
on.
But I will change the story. Someone asked me, a guy was about to get engaged, and he tells me that the family has a medical
The girl's family.
girl's family. He's they told him, he happened to be a Lubavitcher guy, but he says they're dating a while, and finally he calls me up all and a little bit shaken up, and he says that there is the family runs in the family illness. So I said to him, don't marry her. She's not the only girl in the world. When you're young, you think this is it. But I told him this is the Shulchan Aruch. Chazal say you should get married to someone that is healthy. The family is healthy. If you know a family has a genetic disease, could be anything. The family runs. People suffer. There are people suffer from diabetic runs in families. People with heart conditions, people who suffer from mental illness runs in families. So the Gemara Shulchan Aruch says, do not make such a shidduch.
Nichbin is epileptic, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Mitzaras,
They were talking type of mitzaras that they're showing him say it doesn't mean a mitzayra, but we call mitzayra a skin illness, which runs in families. So if you're dating a girl, like the rabbi said, it's too late, but marry off your children, and you make sure the children marry someone who is healthy.
So here Mitzvah means...
Not talking about the tzaras in the Torah, we're talking about tzaras, skin illness.
It means more incurable disease.
Yeah, curable. There are families that run diabetic.
But only external, also internal.
Internal. Diabetic is a horrible illness. It's horrible to live with a diabetic.
today, Nichbin for epilepsy, there's medication that people take.
It's very difficult.
People that don't have it done.
The problem is that those medications usually you can't get pregnant on them.
Not just that, it has such side effects. I as a rabbi, I know that. It's terrible.
I know someone that died. They put him in on the night and put him to the ambulance and they drowned.
He choked on his own. I know someone who choked his own vomit.
But I'm saying if someone has an illness that can be controlled today because of the advancements of science, how does this fit into?
Yeah, if it's everything is relative, as we say. But the Gemara is saying, don't be, I'm a yichus, and she's beautiful, and head over heels, and this guy did not listen to me.
Obviously, sick people also need to get married.
That's not our problem. That's not your problem. That's his problem. The Chazal tell you, make sure you marry a lady that comes from a healthy family. You should have healthy children. Don't worry about him. Hashem will worry about him. You know what the Gemara says? Yoshev HaKudish Baruch Hu. Let me tell you interessante Medrash. Yoshev HaKudish Baruch Hu im Zavek Zevugim. Says the Medrash that the Bnei Yisrael makes a mamzer from one end of the world, he meets up with the mamzeres the other side of the world, and they get married. They fall in love. He didn't find anyone that he liked till he met this girl on the plane, and he fed held over heels. You ever hear these stories? Silly stories. But that's B'Shah. There's the Medrash. For a mamzer, the Medrash doesn't mean what we call mamzer. It means a real mamzer. Mamzer means a bastard, a real someone else. Kudish Baruch Hu. That Hashem will take care of this guy. But the Torah tells you exactly. Don't be blind and say, well, that fits, and we know each other, and we dated so long. Anyways.
Do you have an obligation to notify somebody of that?
No, you have no obligation. You're not obligated, but it's nothing wrong if you do say. This is, okay, let me. No. Let me tell you interesting Gemara. So you asked me how. So he's asking, how could you not tell? Let me tell you a fascinating Gemara. I think it's a Gemara in Masechtas Yivumas. It should be approximate in the Mems. So the Gemara says a story like this. There was a guy whose mother was a Jew and the father was a guy. So he asked Rav, can I marry a Jewish lady? He says, yes. If your mother is Jewish, even if your father's not Jewish, you can marry a Jewish lady. So give me your daughter. She tells him, I ain't giving you my daughter if you're as big as Yeshua Benin. So he tells him, Rabbi tells him, Rebbe, if you're not going to give him his daughter, no one's going to marry him. Sounds like you. No one's going to marry her. So he said to him, right, says to Mavanates of you, go to the next town. No one's going to know that your father's a goy, and you'll get married. Rav is telling him, go to the next town. No one's going to know who you are, and get married.
It's totally different. Yichus is...
No one's. No, I don't want to. If the lady would have known that his father's a goy, she wouldn't marry him. So you fooled her. We're talking about the fooling him. We'll get to the other point. We're telling, Rav told him, go to the next town and do what I just told you. So the question is a different question. But if the person has an illness who can't have children, or can't, the Rechavat Chaim talks about that. Let's say he has an illness that can't have children, or an illness where she can't run a household. She's really not well. So then you have to say that's like Elisama Dam Rachel, because the guy's going to get divorced, he's going to fall apart. Then he's a mitzvah to say. But if it's an illness, okay, suffers from depression. No, today there's medicine. It's not the end of the world. Or suffers, I don't know, such things which is you can raise a family. Not easy, but you're not obligated. But anyways, the Shulchan Aruch is telling you a very important thing, which many Rabbanim don't know this. What are you saying?
What's the shortage of this? Where does this come from?
It's a Gemara, it's a Braisa.
So where is it originally coming from? What concept?
Torah is telling you, Chazal gave you good advice. So this happens to be a Gemara, not a Gemara. Talmud Bavli, the Gemara says, we're talking about who to get married. The Gemara says you should look to get married from healthy people.
But he's saying, is this it's not a mitzvah to do that. This is just common sense that the Gemara...
Lo Yisum.
It's a recommendation.
No, it doesn't say recommendation. It says Lo Yisum.
It's an issur based on what?
It's can't say it's a don't do that.
That's not an issur, it is an
Okay, I can't say it's an issur, but don't do that.
Such
So if somebody does that, is okay?
where it's coming from.
Well, no, look, someone, let me tell you when the controversy started. There was, even everyone accepted it today, but if most of you don't remember, so 25 years ago, about 25 years ago, 27 years ago, started testing for Tay-Sex. It started with a parent, Chassidish man, got married to a lady, and they had Tay-Sex children ever. So he started this whole organization, and the Isha. Beginning, the rule is, I'm afraid to say it, but no one's going to throw it at me. And the rule is, we Jewish people don't like any change. At the smallest number, when this came out, whoa. I remember saying to people, the Gemara says so. So the question is, who's they going to, who are they going to get married? So it made it like you don't know. It's not a match. That's all they do. It's not a match. Not a match. So it's a very great thing. It's a great thing based on this Gemara. The Gemara says, try to make sure you have healthy children. That's it. Okay. I was told, any doctors in the audience? I was once told by a doctor that epileptic is not genetic.
It's genetic, it runs in family.
Runs in family, but it's not genetic. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means exactly. Okay, let's move on. Zog the Mechaber, Sosa Gemara. Amoritz la'yisa kehanis. If you Amoritz, don't marry a Bas Kohen.
Amoritz won't know this then. So who's he talking
Don't be a shatchan. If Amur married Kehenes, if you do get married, ein zvugim oile yufa. Shon Bais is not going to work well.
Worse than that.
So they're going to, two things, yufa. Shetumasi, oivi, meheru, that's going to happen. Either she or he is going to die. It kula tuva b'neiim, or they're going to be fighting terrible. Avatini the chumash lesekenes there is a new meshibach, toiri kinim b'ukemachad. Interessante Sache. So you need, I always tell people that every shalom bayis needs siyata d'shmaya. The only thing we daven always in Shemoneh is sim shalom is peace. Not so easy. To have peace, to live a good shalom bayis is not such an easy thing. But al kaponim, if you marry Amoritz is marry Kehenis, that's like
What's the
Amoritz who doesn't know Torah.
Doesn't keep.
No, doesn't know Torah. No, but this Amoritz says that it's Shaposkim. That means look in the Shach and the Shmuel the Chonim say it means Amoritz. Shitoi. What did you just say?
Well, it's a relative term.
It's true. It's very true.
So he can be a Shomer Shabbos, put on the tefillin every day, but he doesn't learn.
Doesn't learn.
The baseball says he's
The one Beishmuel wants to maybe, and the Chonim all come say to Grai, some other places that it's not so simple.
Generally, Amoritz, I thought we learned in the Gemara means that they don't keep.
The Gemara says this in Brochas Amoritz means he doesn't keep.
Right.
In other places, Shas Amoritz means he wants to keep, he just doesn't know.
Okay.
Question is what the Amoritz are talking about. Not from guy or from guy who doesn't know. The Beishmuel wants to say it is. Another claims Ben Grai is talking about some. Is your wife a Bascoin?
No.
Oh, okay.
I have
Your mother?
My mother's Russian.
No, your father.
When they were engaged, Peter told my father to learn the Septus Chalabah.
Chalabah.
Septus Chalabah is like two blocks or something.
Chala?
Septus
Chala is not short. Kala. Kala. So you see here about the list of the Friedrich Rebbe told his father. It meant Pshitoi.
But that's the standard concept that you learn.
Shlomi also did the same thing.
I did tell him.
Did you memorize it?
I did tell him.
Someone told you that?
I was told. So Shlomo said whoever wants to be with the.
No, but my question is, what about if the Bas Kohen herself is, I don't know the female term for non-Amoritz, but she's not that stark herself.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
So
matter.
what are you saying, that she's going to have to go find some Chassidish Yid to sell
How about a Chabad Talmud Chochem Gerosem?
I'm saying like...
Yeah, it means that. It means Pshitik HaMishmoy.
Wow. You have an obligation, not her.
Right?
But I don't think most of the Bat Kohanim that they don't observe Torah know that, because I don't think they even pay attention to that.
Of course not, yeah.
What is the concept of a bas kohen specifically as opposed to a ben kohen?
She's a female.
I understand, but why?
The Gemara says for some reason.
A Yisrael has to be.
No, we learned it both ways. We learned that a kohen should also marry into a bas kohen.
What you say, the Gemara says that a Hana Kohen is very annoyed if his son-in-laws, great son-in-laws, all the way down the line, Amratzim. It's a Lashon Gemara. He's very annoyed.
who?
If one of his great-granddaughters will marry Amoritz, Hana Kohen gets very annoyed.
Depends who dies. I'll see who he was upset with. Either with her or with him. That's it.
Okay. There were Kahanim. The Kahanim, Kahanim was reason. Kahanim were, feisty. Kahanim were feisty. Okay, let's move on. La'isa bucha zakena, a bucha should not marry old lady. Le'zoken, an old person, yeleda.
What does that mean?
So I had more than once this question come to me. One time a guy was going to marry a lady probably 17 years older than him. I was looking all over
Find a definition.
to find this shir. I didn't find this, but I told him he cannot marry her unless he's guaranteed that she could have children. She was closer to 40 and he was done. He was 20 years old and they were not religious. Then they became religious and she flirted with him at work and she was a divorced lady and they got married. And they have children. They do have children. You know what I'm talking about?
I do indeed.
So when he came to me, I said to him, he came to me, I said to him, you're not allowed to get married unless you know for sure you could have children.
How do you know for sure?
I know that
Well,
Rabbi
they went to
told Shadchanim that they should not introduce people if they're 10 years apart. Either way.
But then let me tell you what I do tell people. Some
What does the
sefer,
second part of this mean? What is Zucking Yelda?
either way.
Elchonon,
Now, either way it shouldn't be. So the some sefer, people have asked me this question more than once. How much years difference could you be? Sefer was 52 years old when he married the daughter of Kivega, who was 25 years old.
that was different.
Doesn't make a difference. If it would be Asa, it's Asa. Kivega's daughter. Some sefer didn't have children, lost his first wife, and Kivega, his father-in-law was only 2 years older than him. And he married the daughter of Kivega, which was 25 years old.
That's okay?
Much more.
He had the house full of children, and 9 children with her.
Maybe for a second wife, that's,
No,
Doesn't say, none of the person say that. None of
No,
them.
the reason is this is love is the good one.
Very good. You know why he's good in his nus? Very, very practical. Because, when there's such a huge age difference, one of them wants more than the other one's old man, he's not interested anymore. And of course, there's a young lady is more interested, or the other way around too. She's old and he's young and he's full of, hormones running through his body, and she's not interested. So it's good in his nus.
some cipher would say 25 years is the difference.
So you see, 25 years is okay.
Does it amount? Did he do much greater difference in age? Did he marry?
How do you know?
What's the plus?
We have a Persian gentleman in our school.
He had women. He was so cold at night. What's the plus?
I've played it.
What?
David HaMelech.
But he didn't marry her. He didn't marry her. Didn't marry her. But a king is also different. Because a king, the Chazal say so, because a king, shouldn't marry more than 4 wives. The king is allowed to have 18 wives because they're not going to be mizan, they're very afraid of the king. So there's a fear factor there. You know what I mean? It's like... Okay, Ben, so the kids, it's good to know that Rabbi says that Tauber Rebbe says don't marry, 10. The Elchonon. If they fell in love, then it's okay.
My wife is more than 10 years younger. I asked.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm just saying it could be even more. By the Persians, I was told by the Persians it's a standard thing.
Yeah, 10 years, sure.
At least.
Yeah. But the husband older than the wife. Yeah.
At least.
But there is a distinction between an older woman with a young man and a young older man with a young woman.
I mean, it says both ways.
If you're saying capabilities to have children, there's a distinction.
Besides the capability of having children, that's one thing. Second thing is that Chazal say don't do it because he'll come out his nose. Okay. Sif Yid. Lo yisra udam isha v'daita legarsha. He wants to divorce her. This question I've been asked often. Laida.
Got married knowing that
No. They know they're going to get divorced.
How did they know?
They're the only reason not going to want to wait the children to get out of the house. The Shalom
They're already
Bayis.
married.
They're married, they get married, and the Shalom Bayis doesn't work. And so they came to me, a few years ago, a couple came to me, bluntly asked me, we decided to get divorced because it's not working. But we want to wait till the children are out of the house. And it was another 3 years or 4 years, the son is going to go to yeshiva, we're getting divorced. So are you allowed to be married?
You are or you're not?
That's the question. So Gemara says, if you both know that's going to happen, you're allowed to be married. If you plan to divorce her, she has no idea that you're planning to divorce her, you're not allowed to live with her. It's an issa.
Doesn't it say there are 9 children that Hashem hates? One of them should the person who has a mind to divorce his wife.
No, that's something else. No, that's not something else. He has daita isha acheres. The Gemara says over there, that's the 9. That's the 9 thing that's Gemara in the door. This is Gemara Yivomis, when the Gemara says, it brings a pasuk in Mishle. She's sitting beteach. She sings so comfortable, not even thinking, and you're planning, forgot the pasuk. It's like a horrible avla, corruption. She has no idea that you're planning this, and often that's what happens. I mean, I'm sitting on a dinner with a couple also. That's exactly what happened. He siphoned off the money already 2 years. This was in his plan. She had no idea what's coming.
So what determines this as an Isser and the other one is not an Isser?
This says in the Rambam says, La Yisa Udom, so the Rambam says clearly. Rambam says this is an isting when it brings a pasuk, you're not allowed to do that.
Is this Yisa meaning remain married or get married?
Get married, and you're not telling her you're going to get divorced short time, or stay married, and not telling her that, you know, I'm living with you. I am telling you that in a year from now, I have everything planned, you're out of here. Both, it applies to both.
So in general, some guy that feels, you know, if not looking at, I think I'm going to get divorced.
If it's not sure, then it's okay. But you know what, this couple said they're going to get divorced, they're still together. Time sometimes heals. But you know, you're not.
So if it's mutual, then it's okay.
Mutual is okay.
And they can stay married, and they can even.
Stay married, mutual. We plan to get divorced. Then it's okay.
And does having relations with each other come into play here?
Yeah, they're allowed to have a relation.
You are allowed.
They're married. It's his wife, but they plan to get divorced in 2 years from now.
They set a date, they look the hall, you know.
Okay. Now, this next machab is very much negeya. Happened in our community. Don't marry someone in this place. Yeah, well, does it? People do. I mean, who does that?
People who live on the other side of town. What are you
There are people, you know, there are people who in Eretz Yisrael have a wife. They come here. There was a guy in my community. I didn't know this, but I got a letter from a bezdin. He had a wife over there, and he moved to my community, and he got married to a wife here.
Where was the other wife?
And Eretz Yisrael in a small town. And he usually comes here all the time. He told his wife that he's coming for business. He had a wife here. He got married. Now he lives in Pico Roberts someplace. I don't know where, but he doesn't moved out of our neighborhood.
Was this one of these
I
like?
can guarantee you, sooner or later, he's going to come down in here.
Was this one of these head marijuana things?
No.
His wife didn't know.
First of all, he's a Sephardi.
Huh?
He's a Sephardi. He's a
Oh,
Sephardi.
because there was a Sephardic store with the head marijuana.
No, that's a separate issue. This guy didn't tell him his wife. His wife didn't know till recently that he comes to America not to raise money. He lives with this lady. He always says, I'm going to raise money for 2 months. She comes here, spends time with her.
He's going to raise money there for 2 months. That's what he was doing.
So the Gemara is talking about, I want to just tell you, the Shulchan Aruch is talking about even a better case. The Shulchan Aruch is talking about even if you tell her, those days you could marry. Why? Chazal were afraid, Shemi Yisu, Ach es HalachaSrs14. You're not allowed to do that. Because the brother might get married to a sister.
Now, can we just clarify, if you're Sephardic, technically you're allowed to have 2 wives?
Technically, you're allowed to have 2 wives.
Okay, so if this guy's a Sephardic guy, and he has a wife here.
Yeah, but the meaning is not that way. So no one gets married in that. You know, even by the Sfardim, they put you into Chedim today. They don't have the Chedim by the Gershon, but if you ever read the Sfardish Ksuba, it says they swear.
You don't do it because you're worried about brothers and sisters,
Right.
But if he knows for sure.
This is before Chedim by the Gershon. This has to do with Zman Gemara. They're not married lady here, and then all of a sudden disappear, get married later because they're afraid the brother. What happened in our community? There was a lady, which everyone knows about. She didn't have children. She got herself pregnant. You don't know about Daniel? You're not up to date? So anyways, she got herself pregnant. And they blamed me that I said the heter. So that she went, she couldn't get married. She's a very wealthy girl. So she went and she got herself pregnant.
From what?
From a bank. The doctor, bought sperm and had a doctor inseminate, and she had twins.
Jewish sperm?
What? Now, when she came to me saying that you're allowed to do it. I said to her like this. I explained that this is the thing. The reason that I told her like this. First, let's discuss the Issa and the Heter. If she thought a Jewish sperm is better. The father is Jewish. He says, you're not allowed to put a Jewish sperm. Because if you don't know who the father is, we have to worry that maybe the brother is going to marry a sister. You get it from a goy, that you're allowed to. But I said to her, not everything you're allowed, do you do. You know what I mean? Well, you're bringing two children. I told her, you bring children into the world without a father. I said, what are you going to children go to school? Who's your father? Sperm donor. Well, what are the children going to know? What did you say? They give. It says in Shulchan, you give after the grandfather. It says in Shulchan, her father's name. If you don't know who the father is, a sufa, but you know the mother is a separate. But I'm just saying that just because. But that's the issa if it's a Jewish sperm. It's a Jewish sperm. Then you're not allowed to do it because and it does happen. People said it doesn't happen. About 30 years ago, when we were learning Yevumas, someone brought me in. Those days, you had to go to the library to get this article. Today you could download it probably. He brought in from the LA Times. There was a private detective who, his job, those days, the adoption was sealed. So they didn't, so this girl was 19 years old. She hired this private detective. She wanted to know who her parents were. She was adopted by her parents. So he worked very hard. And, he was young. He wasn't so old. He was about 35. And they became friends. And they started dating. And they lived together. After hard work, it turned out he was the father.
The father?
This guy, this detective, he impregnated a girl in high school, a 15-year-old girl. His girl, he was 15, pregnant at 15. They gave her for adoption, and it didn't dawn upon him that this is the girl. And you see, Mamish, this was a goyish name like Macromer, real goyish name. But in London it happened. And where twins got married. What happened was they were twins separated at birth, adopted. They went to college. They got married. The only reason they found their brothers and sisters because they had two very abnormal children. Started taking, then they said, something doesn't stem. You guys have the same DNA. And started looking, and they were twins. Not even brothers and sisters. They were twins, separated at birth. And each one didn't even know that the other one had her. So that's exactly what the Chazal said.
Is this like a xera that a guy
The
can
Rabbi
have
says.
in two different countries?
Yeah, if it's yes, the Chazal said, do not have two wives in different countries. Even the Ben Gemara, you're allowed to because you're afraid the brother's going to marry his sister. That's it.
But it doesn't apply to a guy that keeps a non-Jewish wife in a foreign country. Not that that's permissible. I'm saying that wouldn't be a problem with this issue.
The Rambam went through a whole litany of people who are Asr Eilam, or a person doesn't know their father, they might be Asr Eilam. If a person does have a sperm donor that's not Jewish, then you only can't marry a Ger.
Can't marry a Kohen.
A Kohen or a Ger. Not a Ger.
Okay, Gary could marry. He can't marry a Kohen.
You don't know who your donor is. You know it's from this group.
Who cares? But you could marry a Goy. Goy is no yichus.
There's no yichus by Avon, there's yichus by...
Yeah, but Goy, we're not worried about a Goy.
Okay, so hypothetically, a woman gets a sperm donor who's not Jewish, and then this person who donated has a son who marries her daughter.
The Goy has a son.
The Goy has a son who marries this child.
A Goy, if the child, the only way you could marry, he was a Ger.
Right?
So then it's not a problem.
So a ger is like a fresh slate.
Right.
So he could
I
marry...
mean, I told you a brother could marry a sister. Two Gadim could marry a brother or sister. Goyim. Brother and sister got married. Got a guy, they could get married. I told you. The Rabbi says not to do it. It doesn't look good. So anyways, Moshe has old shuva. He speaks about this part of the... Anyways, everything happens. So, Zug the Mahaba. Today, this became a desperate situation. There are many girls who are getting old, clock is ticking, and they're not getting married, and they want to have children.
So what do you tell them?
I tell them you're not allowed to do this. You know what I told the lady? Told this to another lady. This lady happened to be very wealthy. I said to her, why don't you get yourself a date coach? I was told that the people help you, coach you how to get dressed. And she's very wealthy, but they're still flying. So it says you could get people to help you. Anyways, whatever reason, that didn't happen. And I have another lady who came to me, she's 37 years old. She was crying bitterly. Like, I don't know what's my problem. I went for therapy. I just don't know. I just She doesn't want to die. She says, I'm going to get old. I'm not going to have any children. I'm not going to have family. She feels terrible.
She's still single?
Still single.
Same. We have people.
Is it a mitzvah to get married under any circumstance?
A girl has no mitzvah to get married. The women are more desperate to get married than men. So a woman wants a family. Yeah. They hate being alone, and it's just horrible for them.
So when you told to go have non-Jewish sperm,
Didn't say.
This is better than that.
I said to her,
it's better to have non-Jewish sperm.
there's an Isser. I'm going to make this clear. I'm going to be misquoted on this tape here. There's an Isser, and there's what you do. You're not allowed to have Jewish sperm. Period. A Goyish sperm, you can't say it's Asa, but we don't do such things.
Cannot say it's okay.
Let me give a mashal what I explained in
You say
Shul.
it's okay?
I know. Let me explain what happened. You know, the times of the Chavas Yuir. Let me tell you what I said in Shul, an interesting story. Chavas Yuir lived about 350 years ago. And you heard a boy say, the Chavas Yuir, his wife died young, very young. And the Nebuch, those days, you know, there's no medicine, and they left him with 2 or 3 children. And he was wealthy, and he had a girl, he hired a Jewish girl to help him with the children. So he wanted her father didn't want her to work there. So he wanted to give her Kiddushin, Edison, and we'll wait for a while till we get married. I don't remember the details why he wanted to wait to get, he couldn't get married right away. So now this in the times of Gemara, this was normal. And the Sfardim still did it a few hundred years ago. You learn Hilchos Kedushin, the Sfardim still used to make Edison and then later Nesum. Chavas Yuh says, we don't change anything. I'm annoyed, he tells the Rabbi, the Rav of the city, that you have a chutzpah to even ask such a question, inshallah. Klal Yisrael does, me Ashkenazim don't do it. And I was thinking, wow, what's wrong? I mean, the guy is, there's other eitzes, we don't do, we're not mishana things, there's a reason for everything. He was so annoyed. The Chavas Yuh right to the guy, we don't do things outside the normalcy. Today the normalcy was to get married together. Same thing. We don't do such, not everything that you're allowed to do you do. That's a klal, and it's, all over Shulchan Aruch we see that. It's can't say it's also, but I explained to her, this is worse. Why are you bringing a child in not having a father? I told her it's a tragedy. Children who lost a father. Yosem is a terrible tragedy. Anyone who's a Yosem knows that it's a horrible tragedy not to have a father. You ever speak to children never had? I ask sometimes children, grown people, you didn't have a father. He says it was terrible. He doesn't even know his father. He never had a father. It was terrible. So here you're bringing a child like a tchila, not to have a father. What? Because she apologized and said later in public that's because I realized she apologized. She said I didn't say. Yeah.
That's how it happened.
I get misquoted often now. It's just part of being a rabbi. It's just part of the part of the job. Okay. What do you ask something?
Do you think the child would say, I would rather not have been born?
That has nothing to do. That has nothing to do. Not the child. The child would have. Don't worry about the child. But you don't bring it just like you don't want to bring a sick child into the world. Why do you bring a child this way into the world? Why don't you get married?
Our attitude is, hey, my clock is ticking. I'm going to get married. Okay, so my kid will get a father when he's 5 years old or whatever it is. I'm just saying that would be her rationale.
Is it based on some sort of Torah portion, or like where is it from? Or is it just like
You don't bring. It makes common sense. Why would you bring a child into the world who's not going to have a father?
I mean, from her perspective, it's not common sense. I mean,
Yeah, well, when you're desperate, you don't think. When a person is desperate, the common sense is out the window. We all know that. You know, we never.
But it's not based on anything.
No,
It's your
no.
I think there's another whole issue over here that when you bring children into the world, it's not done the way Hashem made it to be done. Ruchnius, who knows what goes on? You know, how we're educated.
You know, let me tell you what the Rizal says. The Rabbi says something. The Rizal says a very profound thing. It's both on the Ochstidish farm. The Rizal says, the Rabban al says it, the Long Gerichis, the Rabban passed twice or 3 times. The Rabban al says it. That the way a child comes into this world has an incredible effect. You know what? Well, the parents, not only how they were intimate, but thoughts they had when they were intimate. The Rizal says if a person has some crazy thoughts when intimate with a wife, that could cause the child to be a rebel and who knows what. I have someone who's close to me, and all his children became from. All of them. I was wondering, one after another, one is incredible, talented, they all became from. What?
He's not from?
All the parents were not from, and then the mother got from later. And I met the parents, I understood they're incredible, loving people. Loving, kind, like it is, it has an effect on the children. The thoughts that you have, that's what the Rizal says. So, anything you do in an abnormal way doesn't mean this child cannot be a tzaddik. I'm not saying that, it does have an effect. Okay. I really was going to want the other page, so let me just. Yeah, it's okay. I wanted to say over. I was going to learn Sif Aleph because I prepared that. Let me tell you. I want to tell you interessante Tshuva Noidi B'Yehuda, and I tell this to Rabbanim because they get always wound up. Especially when there's a guna. Lady doesn't get a get. Let me tell you a story. What happened? The story goes like this. In times in Noidi B'Yehuda, there's a guy who told his wife they were very, very, very poor, and the mamish couldn't afford it, and he went to make panasa. He was going to go out and try to find a business, and 12 years he disappeared. And then those days you could go to another state and no one knows. And what happened was he got married to another lady, another city. The Rav of the city found out that he got married, forced him to give a get. Those days the Rabbanim had a koyach for second wife. Second wife.
Oh, where's the second one?
Yeah, he was overched the Bein Gershon, married the second wife, forced him again. So he came back to his original wife, and now he says, I want you back. She screamed, you want me back? I don't want you. He didn't want to give a get. So the Rabbanim towns felt they should beat the daylights out of him. They should give a get. Disappears 12 years, right? Chutzpah. Disappears 12 years. And he's over the Chedem Bein Gershon. The Rabbanim city, he said this way. He was over, not only in Ashkenaz, you know what the Chedem Bein Gershon is? Bein Gershon made a Chedem that you're not allowed to get married to two women.
How long ago?
1,000 years ago. Even more, it's a little bit more than 1,000. The Bein Gershon made it, the Chedem.
Did it expire after 1,000 years?
But we accepted it again. Did it expire? And we accepted it. Ashkenazim.
How long ago? Recently, no?
Times in Yehuda, I think. Times in Yehuda. So anyway, so what happened was, so the people in town said this way, the Rav in town felt, you were overcheden the Bein Gershon. You abandoned your wife for 12 years. And I made you are shagets over shagets. So well now we're going to beat you up and make sure you give a get. So I would have thought that way. If I wouldn't have been in the Yehuda, it gets your blood boiling. It disappeared. So now Yehuda writes to them, I want to tell you something. First of all, he was over a Chedem. You know when he was over the Chedem? 12 years ago. Maybe he did Shua afterwards. The Chedem you're only over when he got married. Once he's married, there's no Chedem anymore. It's not a continuous Chedem. You understand? It's not every day he lives with her. I once had an anonymous phone call. A Kohen calls me up. He tells me, Rabbi, I married a Gerusha. Is every time I'm intimate with my wife, am I doing a sin? I says, yes. Every time you're intimate with your wife, you're doing a sin. He says, are you sure? I says, yes. I'm sure. That's it. I don't know who it was, but then I met someone who told me, you got this guy to get divorced. He was really frightened. Every time I'm intimate, I'm doing an Aveda. But Chedem the Bein Gershon says in the Yehuda, there's a Chedem. Chedem. You know what a Chedem means? How would you say a Chedem? No. Chedem is like a curse. But it's a curse. Chedem is a curse. It's a klola. So that means that that if you was it's like a shvur, it's a ban, it's many things. So when he got married 12 years ago, he was over the Chedem. But now afterwards, maybe he did shuvah. We don't know. And now he wants to come back. On what basis can I force him to give a get? Beat him up? Can't beat him up.
So on what basis could they make him divorce the second wife?
That's what happened. He's not discussing that why the rabbi did that, but he's discussing. Yeah, but he's discussing. 1 second. Right? They couldn't. Right? The Noidi seemed like he was upset. Didn't like the idea of them.
Divorce the second?
This would have. Koifim what?
She doesn't want to live with him.
So if a lady doesn't want to live with the husband, there is no such. That's the first amratzis that every rabbi makes. All due respect, a lady says, "I don't want him." You don't give her that. Well, there's no such halacha. Even no. A lady says, "Muis ulai." You know what muis ulai? Disgusted. So the Rabbi Tam says, if we would say muis ulai, you could force a lady to give a get. Every lady who wants out of the marriage is going to say muis ulai. The Gemara says, the Mishnah says, if a woman says tmeani, you know, unfortunately, I was not faithful. I cheated on you. They're not Naaman. You don't trust them. Why? Because I'll say, if we're going to trust them, then every lady is going to say, every lady is going to, you know, no one's shalom bayis is always perfect. It could be a weak point, and she's going to tell her husband, you know what? I cheated on you. Out. So the Chazal say, we don't trust you. So says the Rabbi Tam, if you don't trust the lady, says Tameani, we don't trust him when she says Mu'is alai. You know? Just because she said Mu'is alai, so what? So, but the Noidibidi says, in this case, but she's not a Meredis. Because I understand the lady could be very annoyed at the husband disappeared 12 years and doesn't want to live with him. But to force him to give a get, we only force what says in the Gemara. We can't force him to give a get.
I'm saying that forcing it, if the Torah says the man has to divorce his wife,
No.
if they say
Even if the Ben Torah says you can't. Has to be only the Machabes says, in the end of Ed Ezer, has to be only what the Gemara says. He doesn't want to give Mezoinis, then Koifen.
For 12 years, he thinks
Yeah, so, but now he says he wants to give. Koifen is, Koifen is, so it's, if it's also to him, it's three things I remember. A mikashchen, there has to be a few those things. But if, let's say, just because the baskin here is a mitzvah to give him a get, but you can't force him.
Okay.
Guy says, a guy's a nudnik, is a tough guy. I have once had in Besden a lady who complained that he's a critical guy. And people told me, she bought, and I saw them.
He's a what?
He's a machinery critic.
Critic.
When she described it, he didn't deny it. You know, he said, that's who I am. He says, I come home, she has potatoes. Why did you make potatoes? Why did you make lakshan? Why are you wearing this dress today? Everything is why. She felt she was going nuts. And the rabbi who came with her, Mu'is alai, says, yeah, he's a very difficult man.
So what is this term, Mosalai?
Mu'is alai does not apply. It's only something that she's not called a meredis. We can't force him to give a get. You cannot force the guy to give a get.
She's not called a Meredith. So gives a lot of withhold, and then...
Let me tell you more. It says in Shulchan Aruch, they caught a guy with an aces ish. He was mazana. Caught him. Can't force him to give a get neither. He had an affair. He's going to go to hell for it. But it's a separate issue. But that, you know, right now we're talking about husband and wife. She can't demand a get. Not saying that, you know, that's the halacha. It has to be.
It seems very counterintuitive to say that a woman who was on Elchonon for 12 years, and then her husband comes back, and she finds out he was married to somebody else during that time, and he didn't support her, that she can't sit there and go, wait a minute, I really want out.
Can't force him. She's not a meredis.
She remains an aguna.
She is an aguna. She doesn't want to give a get. There's nothing you can do. Nobody says the Chazal said only certain cases you could force. This is not one.
1 second, but if he's not supporting her...
If he doesn't give him a zoinis, mahaim behola, you could give him forcing of a get, right?
Pay back for the other 12 years?
Yeah, maybe she could come to the Torah, right? It's a separate issue. But that's not what she wanted. She wanted out. That's, you know, not addressing.
So in the modern day cases, when you hear these aguna cases, right? You know, and you have these residents all around the country that are...
So, but that they really have to know that, you know, it's...
Ultimately, if the guy hasn't been giving her money, okay, so then...
No, if she left him, he doesn't have to give him a zoinus. If a lady picks us up and runs away, he doesn't have to give him a zoinus. She says, if she says, listen, I would like you to live with you. See, often, unfortunately, you have to know how to play the cards. If a lady would say, I would love to live with you, but you make no money, you don't have any way to support. I want to get. She could demand a get, and that's one of the cases you could force a get. But there's other cases you can't force a get, but the Bezdin puts pressure on it. A gambler, a drunk, it says in the Poskim. But just because the guy is not so nice, he criticizes,
The drunks, you could force the.
can't beat him up, we could put pressure on him.
But a philanderer, he's allowed to stay married to his wife because.
Yeah, you can't force, doesn't, yes, it says in the Poskim.
There's different levels of pressure. Always been pressure.
The first time they told him to get a get with the second wife, that was correct?
That wasn't with the Noda B'Yehuda. The local Rav in the city,
According to the Noda B'Yehuda?
the Noda B'Yehuda doesn't discuss it. He seems that he was annoyed that they did it. He doesn't say why.
On the second wife.
Yeah, he seems annoyed. He doesn't say why. He doesn't talk about it. In the truth, he doesn't. He just goes, now they asked him, what should you do now?
What about the woman's mental health? I mean, say, we have a head there for a woman to have an abortion if it's unhealthy for her, to the extent that she'd be mentally hurt. Even mentally, not just physically, right? She can't get a divorce?
You know, mental health is a very, very relative word.
If it comes back, this person who's a really difficult human being, and she goes to a psychiatrist, she says, I'm going to kill him. I mean, that's my options.
Yeah, that's only in America. You know, I was pushed to kill him. You know, I mean, I was, you know, he pushed me.
Yeah, but we live in America.
Yeah, but that's, you know, but that's, you know, like I ate too much Twinkies. That's why you know, the Twinkies and, you know, I grew up, you know, my parents was too strict and hit me too much. One of the nonsense.
So, this case has been going on in Hackett Park for years.
Which case?
I don't say the name.
You could say a name, a guy that's going to give it.
All over the place. Is it a bubble license? They have no right to force him to give a get.
The what?
Rabbi Rabag's Bezdin said that he has to give a get.
Which case is that? I don't know what you mean.
Rabag.
Rabbi, his father was up and said,
Yes.
Kin.
Well, Kin gave a get.
Oh, he did already.
He gave a get to a Bezdin, which then no one wants to accept the get from that Bezdin. But he gave a get. Yeah, but you can't say he didn't give a get.
Whatever happened, I'm saying, was it right what they're pressuring him all these years?
It is right, but he claims he gave a get. He played the cards, unfortunately, differently. What he did was, he went to a Rav, and he was mashlish a get. And he says, I'm going to give you the get. He gave a get. You know what mashlish means? He gave a Bezdin a get. Now this Bezdin is a little cuckoo guy. The guy's a cuckoo guy. I know him. But he gave a get. Now, all he says, this guy says, come to Bezdin, and we'll talk over. He claims that she took him to court. She owes him money. That's what he claims. She took him to court. The lady's not allowed to go to court. And the Mamela come to Bezdin, and they say, no, you have to, that guy is crooked, he's a Meshuggah, so.
Right, but all the other Bezdins that she's been to, they openly acknowledge that this Bezdin is not legitimate.
Yeah, but it's
Therefore,
very
if she gets that get, it doesn't.
No, but can't say it's a puzzle to get. No one's going to say it's a puzzle to get. That's the
most
problem.
rabbis wouldn't remarry her.
That's true. That's why. That's the problem. That's why he's in the problem. That's why he's not anymore in town, because they were ready for him. He moved.
He's in Vegas.
Yes, another one. They moved for that. They put them enormous pressure.
Wait a minute, if she went to that guy, it doesn't matter who the shliach is, and she picked up her get.
But the Rabbi says, you want the get, come to the entire now.
Right, he connected to the entire.
I'm saying, let's just say, he says, you owe me $100,000. She gives him $100,000 and picks up her get from this person.
The get is a good
And
get.
There are one in town won't recognize the get.
There's some claim that they wouldn't recognize. Some claim it's not true. That's why. That's why it's.
How much does it have to be written on the get? The get just has to say.
You have to know how to do a get. Get has to be done right. It's very complicated.
No, but it's a genius move. This guy found the Bezdin that nobody recognizes.
He did it
So
on
he
purpose.
said, I gave a get. It's waiting there. Go pick it up.
He did a very smart move. Unfortunately.
Can he get remarried?
He's trying to get remarried, but whenever every girl puts his name on the thing, I had a girl who called me up. I said to her, I'm not going to tell you anything. Why don't you look on the internet? So she texts me back, Rabbi, I read everything. It's okay. So he has a king get married.
Yeah, but any Rav will marry him, but
For money, the right money. Yeah, Rabbi.
Listen, back to Sivsayin. In that situation, if a girl calls you up and says, I met this guy, what do you think? Do you have an obligation to tell her?
I have an obligation
She's
to tell him.
asking you. You're not volunteering. She came and called.
Yeah, I have an obligation to tell him. She asked me, then she wants to know, is he a good guy? I would say, no, he's not a good guy. He's mugging his wife.
She doesn't ask you, you just find out.
She asked me, she calls me.
No, what if
I don't have to say.
You
I don't
don't
have to say. But she happened, I have been called more than once, but they can't.
Are you allowed to say what the base it is? Are you allowed to say what the base it is?
The Bezin has a funny name which I never heard, and I once met the rabbi many, many years ago. It's a Mansi. He calls himself the Barditchev Bezin.
That's it.
That says enough. Okay, anyways. So, no, but this is very important. Many people have a misunderstanding about when you could force a get. Yes, this is a typical moshel. I'm sitting in another bezin, unfortunately, with a get. But, this guy, the only reason we could force this guy to give a get, I'm sitting, he refuses to make a panasa. But now, he wants to start working. But there's only limited things we could beat a person up to give a get. Doesn't make panasa. I want to tell you something, even if he hits the wife, the Shulchan says we can't force him, but she's not a maredis. Let's say a guy hits his wife. How's it called? Abusive.
Rambam gives permission.
No, that is not true. That's a misquoted Rambam. It doesn't say that in the Rambam.
She should be hit b'shoit, that's what he says.
If a woman doesn't listen by Bezdin, it's something else. Not the husband, by Bezdin. The Rambam said the Bezdin, not the husband.
No, give a little money from Tauber.
No, the Rambam doesn't.
There's a case many years ago, I remember when I was a young boy, and when I was at school to our seminars, so there was someone, it was a story from back then, and I remember it was where the Bezdin tried to force it, and I don't think the guy ever gave or whatever, but that was a scenario, I don't remember the details there, but she worked in the school, and he, whatever, apparently was a violent guy.
Yeah, but he did not give him a Zionist. You could force him to give a get. The fact he refused to give him a Zionist. That's it. Ginsburg's son. Rabbi Ginsburg's son. He refused to give him a Zionist. On that itself, you could beat him up to give a get. They beat him up. She got a get.
Did she get the get?
Yeah, and Muncie, the Chassidish people of Muncie got together, and they beat the daylights out of him, he gave a get. But they had a right because he refused to give him a Zionist. On that itself, that's it. Refused to come to Bezdin, and refused to give him a Zionist.
If they by mistake beat him up and he gives a get, is that a get by mistake?
The get is possible.
Meaning the get,
Okay.
1 second, but he gave it willingly,
Because I kaufen al
right?
and right afterwards he went to the police and said they kidnapped me. So those days it worked. The Chassidic guy, we kidnapped him. Speak to him, you see how it's crazy. No, he's illusionary. Today it doesn't work so well anymore.
If this girl wants to go back to Kim, she can?
She could go back. Why not?
So the get is...
Get is mashlish. There was no get
You're
yet.
talking about the get that was given months from the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Mashli means
She can demand the Zionist now.
yes. If she would play the cards correctly, she could say, you know what, I want back with you,
Yeah, but that's somebody else.
and I want Mezainas. Yeah, but he could say, there's the get, and then you could come in 30 for Mezainas, but not playing,
Does she have to provide other services in turn for her Messiahs?
Yeah, she has to say, I want to live with him, but he doesn't want to take it back. He doesn't want to. Anyways, I want to tell you something. I know everyone that feels like you said, woman feels locked in a marriage and so on and so on. You know what? I want to tell you, many, many years ago, someone, let me start this thing. You know why we write ksuba? The boy said, what's the whole ksuba? Shekala ve'enov legarsha. Imagine at the wedding, at everyone's wedding, they read aloud the ksuba. Do you know what they read? Do you know why they read the ksuba aloud? Tell the chassan, listen to me. I know you're crazy over your kala, but there'll be a time you're going to think, I don't know how I married this lady. I have no idea what I did over here. And the Chazal say to you, Shekala ve'enov legarsha. Because no shalom bayis is like the movies. He comes in the house and he, how you say, the Eugenfling, and how do you say, that doesn't exist. In the movies, in reality, we get annoyed with our spouse, they get annoyed with us. That's life. That's just bottom line. So Chazal said, you're going to have a weak point. You say, I want to get divorced. It shouldn't be easy to get divorced. That's why, they want the modern Orthodox all wanted to make it should not be. They made a star, the OURU, and none of the Fum people accepted it. The RCA. What's the star? That means if you don't come to a Bezdin, a prenuptial agreement, because it'd be very easy to get divorced. And when I was learning Sibbis 14 years ago, we learned that more than that. I think it was the day before that. Someone brought me in an article in the Shiurim from U.S. World Report. That's a magazine, something like that. And he said that in the states where the divorce is more expensive, the divorce rate is lower, but they checked it out. But the people make peace with it. They make peace with each other.
Wow, that's great.
I said last week, I'll tell you, it's late. Let me tell you, schneller Wort. Tell you a good word. Let me tell you, I have to go to a wedding. Let me tell you, schneller Wort. I said last week, imagine a wife goes and he poisons her husband. And he gets sick. Baruch Hashem, he got better. You think he's ever going to make sure? Deliberately. You think it could be shalom bayis? Imagine a wife goes and murders her husband. Chava gave Udam Rishon to eat. He was going to live forever. And she murdered him. A murderer. How in the world did he make peace with her?
430 years.
But how did he make peace with her? If it's the only lady in the world, you can make peace. The only reason you can't make peace, there's another one, there's this, and there's but if it's the only lady in the world, you can make peace. If you know you can't get divorced, you're going to make peace with her.
Quickly, they all comes down to not being able to forgive the sinus, right?
What do you say?
Not being able to forgive the sinus is one of the big things. The thing is, he can't give the sinus to her.
One of the reasons.
One of the reasons we can.
For kosher.
So if a person, he beats his wife and she can call the police and get him arrested. If he's locked up, she can't.
It says in the poskim, the guy's in jail, she can demand a get because he cannot give the sinus. It says in the poskim.